Right, hello everybody. Welcome back. Summer term is upon us. It is Thursday. It is the first Lit Soc of summer term, and today is
Shakespeare Day.
Thank you to the two people who are awake. Yes, today is Shakespeare Day. Why is today Shakespeare Day? Somebody tell me.
It's his birthday.
Yes, and also.
Oh my god! He died.
Yes, they don't know that for certain, but yes, it is believed that his birthday and his death day, 23rd of April. And today's the actual day. We actually get to celebrate it. Lit Soc coincides with the day itself for once. So, this year, as you know, we're going to do... Shakespeare's always worth celebrating, we know that. But we thought we would focus on Shakespeare's strong female characters, or notable female characters, however you want to define it, for two reasons. The first, you may remember International Women's Day. We marked that just, was it sort of middle of March? And we had all sorts of events on the quad, so we thought, yeah, let's time with that. But also another reason why we're focusing on that is this new book has arrived in the library, and I urge you all to have a look at it, Shakespeare's Heroines. And it's, as it says there, Guide to the Play's Leading Ladies. It's very accessible, and it shows, because Shakespeare was operating at a time, of course, Tudor England, where even though they had a woman on the throne for much of the time he was writing, women were certainly, shall we say, seen as second-class citizens. And, bearing that in mind, it was quite pioneering of him at the time to sort of like feature so many strong and prominent female characters. So, here's Ophelia from Hamlet, Juliet from Romeo and Juliet's profiles, and also, I'm not going to look at it now, there's a little quiz at the back to find out which Shakespeare heroine you are. And if there's time, at the end, we will have a little go at doing that, okay? But we'll save that for the end. Also, Miss Huntley will be with us at some point. She's running a little bit late today. There are a couple of particular things she wants to do that she told me about, but we'll wait until she gets here before we dive into that. Okay, so who would like to discuss a notable Shakespearean female character first? Lucy, your hand went up very quickly. Oh, and Georgia. Okay, let's hear it.
So we would like to talk about Miranda from The Tempest. So, the thing is about Miranda is that a lot of people don't seem to like her.
Should we explain who she is?
So,
Yes,
Miranda is the daughter of Prospero, who is a wizard and the main dude.
Main character.
Yeah, I know. And so, and her main plot point is that she falls in love with Ferdinand, which is what makes The Tempest a comedy.
Partly.
Partly.
But she's portrayed as quite a weak character, and she's quite submissive and polite.
However, she's also very sweet because she's always looking out for everyone else. Like at the beginning, there's the Tempest is happening and the ship is sinking, and she's like trying to make sure that the people on the ship are going to be okay. And like she's saying to Prospero, like, this is better not be you, like.
Yeah, but she really cares for him. She's very empathetic.
Even though like she doesn't actually have any power.
Yeah. But she's not presented very well.
Alright.
Yeah.
What's the basic plot of The Tempest?
So
It's not very basic.
it's not very basic at all.
Okay, as basic as you can make it.
Okay.
So the main character, what's he?
Prospero,
what's the
he's
situation?
Duke of Milan, and he is betrayed by his
Brother Antonio.
And they basically send him out to sea and try to kill him so that Antonio can be the Duke of Milan. That succeeds, but they expect him to die, but they don't. He also sends out Miranda, who's Prospero's daughter.
They live on the island.
They live on this island for a long time, and then after that, the boat with all the people who betrayed him, including the King of Naples, who also kind of let it happen.
Alonso.
Yeah. And basically Prospero gets them onto the island with the storm, and he kind of torments them to get his own back, and he then like tries to sort of bring them together and sort of say, I'm alive.
But in the end, he doesn't get his revenge. He goes like, I still don't like you, Antonio, but...
You read the whole play then?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. What, do you like it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
It was good. It's funny.
Yes.
I don't see
And-
much of the tragedy. Like, it's not
It's
actually
not actually
scary.
a tragedy. It's more this opportunity for tragedy.
I think it's quite funny.
When it
some
comes
of
to
it is.
categorising plays, it's not always the case that a tragedy is always got a sad ending and a comedy is always got a happy ending. He's had what are known as problem plays, which defy categorisation, but also romances. Winter's Tale is one, if anyone, is fully that one. And The Tempest is sometimes considered in that category as well. It's also one of his later plays. In fact,
Yeah, it's written. I think it was released in 1612. So
something
that's
like
about.
yeah, maybe
yeah,
don't tell us off the top of
around
my head,
then.
but it's around then, and it is often believed to be the last play that he wrote on his own. Completed on his own.
Special.
Yeah. So.
I mean, it's definitely got some funny moments and a lot of subplots.
Yeah, like there's an entire bit where they're talking about where there's some drunk guys saying a guy is a fish. There's
There's a bit of singing.
there's a bit of singing. We reenacted that scene. It was so fun, and
Yeah.
that was hilarious.
Well, they're marooned on an island, isn't it, as well? So
Yeah.
now Prospero's got magic as well, of course.
Yeah, which does
There's
make it more
mystical
fun.
Elements.
And
So
he's
Miranda
got
then.
spirits.
Miranda, she's
Basically the weak daughter.
the weak daughter, but at the same time, not only does she look out for people on the boat, she's also going. I mean, she does fall in love at first sight, but she goes to make sure that Ferdinand's all right because Ferdinand's the son of the King of Naples, Alonso. So, and he's put to work like by Prospero, so he's like working all day, and Miranda's going to him and going like,
Yeah,
"This
she
is so
offers
unfair." This
to
is like
do his work for him.
Yeah.
for a bit.
And so, like, she's also really selfless. So, I think she's like a great female character. She is the only female character in The Tempest.
Yeah.
There are no others, but that's fine.
And so, do you feel
Well,
if you feel she's a weak
actually,
character? Do you
Yeah.
Feel, how do you
I
feel
mean,
about that?
she's
As she's the only character.
Portrayed as weak, but I think she's not like.
I think she's stronger than she appears.
Hidden depths.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she does stand up for herself, I would say.
Yeah, she does.
And we'll probably be doing a lot of famous quotes this evening, but she's the one who says "Brave New World," which
Yeah.
is something that's entered our lexicon. It's a well-known Shakespeare phrase. We'll touch upon that when the Sunday gets here.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
I mean, she is the only female character in the play, but in the film they've changed Prospero to Prospera, which is interesting.
We don't approve.
which film is this?
I mean, in the Tempest film,
The one that you're watching.
we watched some of it.
Most of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, we have mixed feelings about it. I think it's a good idea in theory that they actually have a strong female character who's like, more in control. But
Maybe not Prospero.
yeah, but I think it's a bit. It just changes the story and the sort of whole dynamics of it quite a bit.
Question.
Also, I feel like you shouldn't really change stuff to be like more like gender inclusive, especially something like that like such an old play. Like obviously it's okay to be gender inclusive, but are we that like pathetic that we can't just handle the fact that there are a couple of submissive female characters in the world?
Well, there's it's an interesting one because it's happening all the time. It's quite a modern trend. So last summer I went to see Richard III in the National in the Globe, and it was an all-female cast. Well, and I enjoyed it, and I thought it was very good. But yes, I take your point. It's like, do we need to keep on doing these things? And Taming of the Shrew, that's a notorious one. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that one, but it's very notorious for being quite misogynistic. And what they've done there is they've done things like, made the man unhappy, or perhaps they've also had an all-female cast there as well. So yeah, it's an interesting point. Now, I've not seen this film, so I can't really comment. Do you agree with that? General points?
I don't know. I mean, I sort of, yeah. I do think there's definitely a good idea in changing Prospero to female because Miranda being the only one, she's not the most inspiring. And if that's like your only sort of female inspiration, that there is, then, it's not great, really.
Okay.
But I think, like, I don't think it was really necessary to
Okay.
change.
I think that if
the gender of the character is not necessary, like a necessary part of, like it's a thing that comes up in the play, like their gender is something that's discussed, and I don't think it should matter whether the character, like in a production of it, is one gender or another, because it doesn't change the plot in some cases.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
There is a problem with that in that Prospero is a wizard, so that in the time a witch is looked down upon as like
people believe that witches existed.
But they were bad. But wizards were more seen as mystical, like
Good.
they were seen in a more positive light, and so that changed a lot of that. Would have changed the plot to a degree.
Yeah, but it's less as important. It's less important now, I think.
It is less important now.
Okay, so yeah, obviously your point about this is not a strong female character. We do hope you have others that do fit that bill that we're going to discuss. Now, before you go, we did talk about the other play. Remember?
What you doing about nothing?
Did you want to offer any thoughts on that, and then we'll open that one to the crowd as well?
Okay, so I saw Much Ado About Nothing once for Phoebe and Esther when they performed it.
Okay, they don't want you to talk about that, so move on.
So the strong female characters I think are Hero and Beatrice.
How about Esther talks about it, because she did.
Well, I never.
Did you study it? I don't know if you studied it.
No.
It's okay if they haven't studied it, but have you seen it?
Yeah.
Okay. What did you think?
Well, Beatrice is such a cool character.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, she's constantly like, no, I don't like you. To the, don't remember the name of the guy who. Benedict.
Okay.
Benedict.
It's Benedict. Deliberately.
Yeah.
Is everyone here familiar with the story of Much Ado About Nothing before we go any further? Right. Esther, do you want to come up and you can give us a sort of potted... round of applause for Lucy and Georgia first of all. Thank you.
So, Much Ado About Nothing is set in Messina in Italy, and it follows the story of two couples, Hero and Claudio, and Beatrice and Benedict. Beatrice is the niece of a guy called Leonato, and Hero is the daughter of Leonato. So at the start, we have the Duke, I think it's the Duke, I can't remember. Don Pedro, and he comes to Messina bringing his men because they've just had Don Pedro like sort of join back their side. He's Don John. Don John is his brother, and so they come to Messina, and Hero falls in love with Claudio, and Beatrice and Benedict have this interesting relationship in that they know each other beforehand and they really dislike each other. They have a lot of sort of kind of like being quite mean to each other, but it's quite and it's quite like they sort of are actually in love with each other, but at the beginning they don't like each other, but Hero and Claudio, they fall in love and they decide to get married. The thing happens though is that Don John, he's not a good guy, and he tries to break up their marriage and ruin everything for them. So he makes up that Hero has actually slept with another man, and so Claudio, thinking this, basically accuses her of doing that in front of everyone.
Rotten orange.
Yeah. And so Beatrice, she defends Hero, and they sort of make this like sort of plan. Hero faints and is presumed dead, though she's not. And then Claudio actually feels really bad, and it comes out that Hero hadn't slept with this other guy, and she was like chased or whatever. But basically, in the end, both Hero and Claudio and Beatrice and Benedict, because they realise that they actually really like each other through the scheming of Hero, and they all get married in the end, and it's one of his comedies.
it's very funny. Beatrice is a very cool character. She's like, oh, I don't. She sort of like scorns all men a lot. She's like, you know, I don't like men with beards, but I also don't like men without beards. And she's like, oh, your face is awful. Like scratching couldn't make it worse. She's very funny, and there's this moment after Hero's just been accused of sleeping with another man, and she has this speech, and she's like, I would eat his heart in the marketplace, about Claudio, and she's just her anger and sort of her feelings of powerlessness because she's a woman. She's like, I would rather be a man so that I could kill him myself, and she's challenging Benedict to kill Claudio because of what he's done to Hero, and it's just, she's a very cool character in that way. So yeah, that's Much Ado About Nothing.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
And Beatrice is certainly.
Yeah. This is one of my pins.
Yeah, she's my favourite Shakespeare heroine because of sort of her strength and her, like, she's like, you hear her, what she says, and you just go, yeah, that's right, especially about the time, and yeah.
She knows what she's doing. She's got the courage and convictions.
She is, yeah, she definitely does. She's awesome.
Anyone else sort of familiar with Much Ado About Nothing? Phoebe? Anything to input today? Anything to add?
No, Esther pretty much said everything.
The quote on my pin says, "There was a star danced, and under that was I born." Because they have a conversation. The prince actually wants to marry her,
Yeah.
doesn't he? And she has to let him down gently. But she says, he compliments her on her wit, and that's what she says.
Yeah.
And traditionally, have you seen it on stage?
I've watched this recording of
Catherine Tate and David Tennant version.
Yeah, it's so funny.
But quite often it's traditional for the Beatrice and Benedict couple to be slightly older than Hero and Claudio.
Yeah.
And they've been the oldest I've ever seen was James Earl Jones, who was the voice of Darth Vader in Star Wars, and Vanessa Redgrave, and they were in their 70s.
Wow.
It didn't quite work, but it was a really good attempt, because the idea is that they've got this past history.
Yeah.
They
know each other from before.
You always end with a Jade's trip.
Yeah.
About Benedict, because Claudio, well, they start on him.
Well, they're normally the central couple, aren't they? But really, everyone knows that Beatrice and Benedict are really.
Yeah. They sort of overshadow
totally.
Hero and Claudio.
They make the play their own.
Yeah.
Really. Don John is an interesting character, but really, it's like those two.
Yeah.
The constable, what's his name?
Dobry.
Yeah. Good comic relief.
Yeah.
But really, it's all about those two.
Yes.
Yeah. And their conversations are just so like snappy and funny, and yeah.
Very influential.
Yeah.
All right. So, did you want to talk about something else as well?
I wanted to talk about Emilia from Othello, because I mean, technically, Desdemona is the heroine. She's the main female character in Othello. She marries Othello. She's a white woman marrying a black man in Venetian society, and then they move to Cyprus because the Ottomans were trying to invade, and they were sending over Othello, who is a general, and that is why he has status in Venetian society. But he is also looked down upon because of his race. And so they move over to Cyprus with Iago, who is not his second in command, but his
sort of sergeant major.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's a bit annoyed that he's not the second in command, and that instead it's Cassio. But his wife, Iago's wife is called Emilia, and she's a bit of a contrast with Desdemona. At times, Desdemona has her moments of being quite not really fitting in with the ideals of her time, but most of the time she is a very obedient, submissive woman, so conforms to the expectations. But Emilia, you get this moment at the end where she and Desdemona are talking, and she's just like, she tears apart the double standards of the time. You know, she's like, why can men go and cheat on women and it's looked down upon us to do the same? We're human, aren't we? We've all got desires. And then she defends Desdemona because she's also a theme. She's been accused of cheating on Othello with Cassio, and therefore Othello kills her in the end. But Emilia defends Desdemona, and she calls out Othello for murdering her. She calls out Iago, her own husband. She realises what he's done, and she just, like, she breaks this silence, and in the end Iago kills his own wife, stabs her in the back, because she threatens his plan. So I think she's probably like the coolest female character in Othello, and that's who I wanted to talk about.
Underrated. Has a sort of
there's sort of she's part of a sort of thread that runs through a lot of his plays. The older, confidant.
Yeah. Miss Clark describes her as
to other women in the play. So in Winter's Tale we've got Paulina.
Paulina, yeah.
And she takes on another jealous man, Leontes, and tells him what she thinks of him, because he gets so jealous that Hermione, his wife, has to be hidden away for 20 years. And in fact, Paulina's husband is killed, pursued by a bear. If you've seen Paddington, then you will know the reference. So there's a tradition really of these older women. Yeah.
I always remember Emilia because Miss Clark describes her as worldly wise. And I think that's quite an apt description of her.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Desdemona is much more like naive and innocent.
She is. Yeah. And much younger than Othello.
Yes.
Yeah. But of course, Othello is put upon by Iago. There's no two words about it.
Yeah, Iago is just like this mastermind. Although, he does get caught out.
Yeah. I remember going to see Rory Kinnear in Othello with Adrian Lester as Othello, and Rory was just amazing. He was so much so I said I'd never see it again.
He's the definitive Iago for you.
Iago, yeah. Okay. Yeah, he really was superb. And that was all in modern dress and in bunny fatigues. Yeah, it was really good.
That's good. Was it like recorded?
It's on the National Theatre Live platform, I think. You could probably pay for it somewhere. Yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
Can't access it in school at the moment.
No. That's nice.
But you can at home.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, Esther.
Thank
Thank you very much. Right, who would like to go next? Jenny?
So I have the book Macbeth, but I'm going to be talking about Lady Macbeth. I don't know much about her, but I did do some work on her in Year 5, so I know some things about her. But so in Macbeth, actual Macbeth, like.
You mean the play, or you mean
the play?
Right.
But no, I mean the guy called Macbeth.
Character.
Yeah. The character called Macbeth. Yes.
Yeah, he meets these 3 witches that tell him his prophecy, And then he thinks... I just forgot the prophecy.
He's going to be king.
There we
King
go.
of Scotland.
Yeah. And then, so he
Writes a letter.
To Lady Macbeth.
Yes, sorry. And then he's kind of like, oh, yeah, I know. Sorry, I'm getting off track. However, what I do know about Lady Macbeth is that she kind of persuaded Macbeth to, was it kill the...
Yes.
Yeah, because if he does...
Because then he would be the king of Scotland.
There we go.
Yes.
And then
Absolutely.
she's kind of driven to this loop of insanity, being like, oh my god, it's all my fault that all of this has happened. Because Macbeth gets this vision at a dinner, like a banquet,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, Banquo,
and it's,
his former good friend.
yeah,
Who he also had killed.
and then Macbeth's kind of like, oh my god, this is all my fault because I told him to. And then that's the act that I studied in year 5. And then we were kind of going down how she feels during that. And it was all kind of like, I still see the blood on my hands, I can't wash this off. And she was kind of like awake at night thinking about it. And then that kind of sucks.
She does eventually go doolally, but
Yeah.
initially
she's
what's she like?
quite a strong character, because obviously she did end up persuading Macbeth to do it. So she's got quite a strong influence, and I think she's definitely a very strong character, being one of the main characters, I guess.
But why is she such a strong character?
Probably because she makes quite a lot of appearances, and that's obviously kind of obvious, being like the wife of Macbeth.
What does she do?
But
what does she do that makes her strong? What are the actions and the things she says?
she does quite a lot of things to like trigger some like the main plots and stuff.
Okay, I think we got some examples, Phoebe.
Well, she's a strong character because she manipulates her own husband. She's able to get him to do things that he isn't initially wanting to do. So, for example, with killing the king, after the prophecy, Macbeth is like, I will let fate take its own path. Like, if it happens, it happens. I shouldn't interfere. And then Lady Macbeth, when he comes home, she's like, you are a coward, and you do not have enough, and like you should be more ambitious. You should kill the king and get that crown, and you should make sure that, because that could make our family great. So yeah, that's the sort of strong thing I think she does.
Yeah, she's very assertive.
Yeah.
Very ambitious.
She almost emasculates him.
Yeah.
That's how
She does. She definitely
yeah.
does.
all the
Yeah.
power in their relationship.
Yeah.
Until like she obviously goes mad.
The dynamic does flip.
It does, yeah.
It does flip, because Macbeth just goes ever deeper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He
She,
gets super.
as you say, goes in the spiral. Annabelle?
I think one of the things I like about her is, even though she isn't like a good character, and she will do whatever she can to get what she wants, and she persuades her husband and like calls him less masculine, and I think the like gender roles are completely flipped for her character, so it's like really different to what you'd expect at the time.
Absolutely.
From a female, but it does change quite a lot, and I think they were really close at the start of the play, but at the end, when Macbeth gets power, he just basically mistreats the power and loses the relationship with his wife.
Do you remember what happens when she dies? Spoilers, when she dies. What it says.
He was literally like, this isn't the best time. Yeah. He was like, tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. He was like, why did it happen today? It was like, this could have happened tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, not best timing.
She should have died hereafter.
Yeah.
So, absolutely. So, anyone guess got... Macbeth is one that we're all familiar with, isn't it? And, as well as she's not the only... And like The Tempest, she's not the only female character in the play, lest we forget. But any other thoughts on Lady Macbeth? General? Okay, so what about the other female characters? So we got the witches, haven't we? What do we think of the witches, Stella?
They're quite funny. I don't know. Can't remember much about it because I read like a children's simplified version of it when I was like 10. But don't they like share one eye?
No, that's
No.
You're thinking of Greek
Great
mythology.
sisters.
Greek mythology, that's the Fates.
Oh, right.
They're linked with the Fates, but I've never seen them portrayed actually as the Fates.
Okay, a different one.
But but because there are three of them, yeah, they're certainly linked, and it seems to be, and certainly Macbeth talks about fate taking a hand in his future career, as it were, and also Shakespeare was writing for an audience that had studied Greek myth, Roman tales, Ovid, so they would make a link not only with witchcraft but also with the fates as well. So you're not wrong in that sense. Yeah. Do you remember anything else about them?
Not really. I have the worst memory you can ever think of.
Their mistress is Hecate, who is the goddess of witchcraft. And they cast loads of spells. One of the first scenes, not the first scene though, they sort of curse this this sailor and his wife. So they're quite sort of like, they sort of like to get their own back at people for fairly trivial things. But they're very cool, interesting. It's interesting thinking about the supernatural.
There's a bit of controversy around that scene with Hecate.
Yeah,
Mm.
because
Yeah.
it's not. They think it's
it's not.
added. It's not Shakespeare's own
Yeah, that's right.
work.
Yeah.
It's added later.
And it did it good because people love seeing the witches.
Yeah.
They are that popular. They're hugely popular.
Annabelle?
Well, I think the witches are basically really powerful, and I think they are the whole catalyst to start the chain of events, because they basically, their prophecy to Macbeth, it was so easy to see before, but he wasn't looking in that place. But once the witches were like, you could be king, like they were like, you will be king, he was like, oh yeah, that is actually easy. And it's like, it kind of brought like a way for him, it kind of directed his thinking path. And I think it wouldn't have happened if the witches hadn't told him, because he's not the person to do that. And I think, like, initially, so it was kind of all the witches.
It's not a chance meeting, is it?
No.
It seems
It's
to be
planned.
It's definitely planned.
Yeah.
So more
And of course,
manipulation.
Lady
but not
Macbeth
that.
identifies herself with evil, doesn't she? Can you remember how she does that?
In her
The spirits,
yeah, she uses a lot of like witchcraft imagery in her first like one.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Jenny.
Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you.
Right. Anyone else?
Anyone else?
Want to offer?
Leah?
Don't have anything.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
No?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah, go
I'm
on.
kind of improvising.
Okay, so
Hello.
I've got like a classic Romeo and Juliet. So obviously I'm going to be talking about Juliet. I think she's actually like a really strong character because, well, there's multiple reasons. But yeah, like she's like madly in love with this boy and she'll do anything for him. But I feel like she's also really like strong in herself because she's got two parents who are telling her, you've got to marry this man. You can't do you can't marry who you want to marry. But she's strong and she doesn't listen to them. She tries like whatever she can do to say, no, that isn't who I want to marry. Why should I have to marry him? So I think she's not only like inspirational, I also think she's really like brave because she has to do a lot of things in this.
A lot of sneaking around and.
Yeah, which I don't think women in that time really would do because they're just meant to kind of be seen and not heard. whereas she wanted to be heard, she wanted people to listen to her, and she wanted to be able to do what she wanted. So she kind of goes against the rules a lot, and she puts also a lot of faith in certain people, which I think you have to be very brave to be able to do. Like, she trusts pardon?
The nurse is the...
No, it's
The nurse?
the nurse
Are you
and
thinking of the...
Oh, you mean
the
friar?
friar.
Yes,
Because
absolutely.
this man could betray her at any moment. He could, like, tell her family. He could, like, give her the wrong potion. He gives her the potion. Potion kind of thing. Poison. But she trusts him. And she does this thing also she can be with the person she loves. And I'm sure everybody knows the plot of it. But at the end, she could have just left Romeo. But she doesn't. She's brave and she she kills herself.
Yes.
So she can be with him. I think that's very brave.
Well, not a message to that, nice.
Not necessarily the best thing, is it?
No, but
that
like...
was what makes it really sad.
Yes.
It is, but she's... Like, it's obviously it would have, like, been better if she tried to move on, maybe, and not killed herself. But I think her doing that shows she's, like, very brave.
There is a play that was in the West End last year, the year before, called After Juliet, and it thinks about what might have happened if she survived, if everybody had arrived a bit earlier. Romeo being dead and her being alive. And it's quite an interesting thought about what would she do? Because do you remember why the friar actually goes along with the plan to get them married?
I mean, I don't really know because I've read like the simplified books and I watched the play and I watched the TV version with Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah.
So I haven't actually like read any of that part.
Well, you've seen it, quite a lot of it.
Yeah.
Phoebe, Esther, do you remember why Friar Lawrence brings them together? Gets them married? There are two families, aren't there?
Yeah. Oh, he wants to
unite.
create peace, is it?
And of course, she's the daughter of Lord Capulet's.
Yeah.
Which is why it's rebelling is quite brave, because he is a nobleman. But yes, because of the feuding, which is causing havoc across Verona. Yeah.
So it's really to
ulterior
bring peace
motive.
between the families,
Yeah.
and of course, once they're dead, that's what happens. There is peace.
Yeah, sadly, that's why it's
Sadly,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you identify with her?
Like relate?
Yeah.
Not really.
Okay.
If I'm being honest, like, I think she's like, not the Empire obviously, but she's quite inspirational how like, she stands up for what she thinks right. Which I do sometimes, but I don't go like, devoting my life to somebody.
Somebody who you met a few days ago.
Yeah, so,
The time frame is like 3 or 4 days.
It's like really
It's very compressed.
It's not really love, it's infatuation.
Yeah.
Young
Yeah.
Well, it is first love, you see, that's the
Yes,
thing.
it's-
It's
yeah.
first love.
It's naive teenagers who don't know how to
Yeah.
deal with their own emotions.
Because she's very, very young, isn't she?
Isn't
yeah.
like Romeo that Romeo's a lot older than her. She's like 14 and
Like, not
It's
a
not a
lot
lot
older.
older.
We'd say 4 to 5 years maybe. But traditionally, certainly in Shakespeare's time, men matured later.
yeah.
Sometimes the onset of puberty is later, and just emotionally they mature later as well. This way it is in his time. And of course it was the norm, because people died young.
Yeah.
So you like it?
Yeah, I love the film and the play.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's great.
All right.
And it is his first major tragedy, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's there's lots of extraordinarily beautiful language as well.
Including with Juliet herself.
Yes.
So, all right, thank you very much.
Thank you very
Thank you.
Okay, and are you off?
Yes.
Okay.
Bye. Right, we're going to perform.
We're going to perform. Are we going to perform now? Let's do it.
Thing for you now. To memorise today.
You can sit if you want.
Okay.
I'll stand.
All right. And yes, I'll sit in the favourite chair. Okay, so this was written by a very, very famous cultural commentator, journalist, writer, and also presenter on TV. He in his day, when he was alive, he was sort of the cultural equivalent of David Attenborough. He wrote in the Times, which is one of our biggest. We used to be one of our biggest newspapers, and he was always on TV talking about something, arguing, debating. Because TV's changed quite a lot now, and he also went on journeys that were across places and wrote and talked about them as well. So he basically his producers almost invented reality TV. So while he was doing a journey across Italy, he would meet people, talk to them, and about learning about other people. Now this is called. I
think it's just called "You're Quoting Shakespeare," isn't it?
You're Quoting Shakespeare, and it was very famously published in the Times, and it's upstairs on the first floor. The Globe used to have it as a poster, and that's what it is. So we're going to read it to you in, and some of the things you will recognise.
Definitely.
Okay, so if you cannot understand my argument and declare it's Greek to me, you are quoting Shakespeare.
If you claim to be more sinned against than sinning, you are quoting Shakespeare.
If you recall your salad days, you are quoting Shakespeare.
If you act more in sorrow than in anger, if your wishes follow to the thought, if your lost property has vanished into thin air, you are quoting Shakespeare.
If you have ever refused to budge an inch, or suffered from green-eyed jealousy, if you have played fast and loose, if you have been tongue-tied, a tower of strength, hoodwinked or in a pickle, if you have knitted your brows, made a virtue of necessity, insisted on fair play, slept not one wink, stood on ceremony, danced attendance on your lord and master, laughed yourself into stitches, had short shrift, cold comfort, or too much of a good thing, if you have seen better days or lived in a fool's paradise, why, be that as it may, the more fool you, for it is a foregone conclusion that you are, as good luck would have it, quoting Shakespeare.
If you think it is early days and clear out bag and baggage, if you think it is high time and that is the long and short of it, if you believe that the game is up and that the truth will out, even if it involves your own flesh and blood, if you lie low till the crack of doom because you suspect foul play, if you have your teeth set on edge at one fell swoop, without rhyme or reason, then, to give the devil his due, if the truth were known, for surely you have a tongue in your head, you are quoting Shakespeare.
Even if you bid me good riddance and send me packing, if you wish I was dead as a doornail, if you think I'm an eyesore or a laughingstock, the devil incarnate, a stony-hearted villain, bloody-minded or a blinking idiot, then by Jove, O Lord, tut-tut, for goodness sake, what the dickens? But me no buts altogether. It is all one to me, for you are quoting Shakespeare. Now that doesn't mean to say that he invented these phrases necessarily, he probably did, but he listened and heard on the streets, and then he wrote them down. And that's what Bernard Levin, sadly long gone, is quoting and writing down for us. How many people recognise phrases? Yeah.
I would have thought all of you, surely.
Yeah. Green-eyed jealousy, of course, comes from Othello. Foul play, Hamlet. Vanish into thin air. You recognise it? You too?
Yeah, you talked about it.
Who vanishes into thin air? Phoebe, Esther. Who vanishes into thin air?
The witches.
The witches, yeah, absolutely. Okay. In other words, they're going probably down the front door, aren't they? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Time's getting on, isn't it? So, you do want to do your heroine?
Yeah, I'll do
you
mine.
do your
I'll
heroine.
be pretty quick.
That's
So,
right.
I am going to talk about As You Like It. Now, this play, or rather more specifically, Rosalind from As You Like It. Now, we've talked about Romeo and Juliet and Rosaline, who is the unseen character, and she's a bit of a non-entity, really. She's just a prop. She's a vehicle. Rosalind defines the action of the play. She is everything. She is like the Falstaff is, or like Hamlet is to Hamlet. She is that important. So for that reason, that's why I picked her. Not his greatest play, admittedly. It is seen as a bit lightweight. George Bernard Shaw said that Shakespeare's essentially talking to his audience. He's doing a crowd pleaser. As you like it. Yeah, I'm doing it to play because I know you like it. It's not to tell you my best. So it's seen as a bit of a lightweight puff piece, but essentially, Rosalind defines the action. She's a very important character now. She is the daughter of an exiled duke. They've been exiled to the Forest of Arden, along with her her loyal sort of friend, cousin, and as well as the court jester. And they essentially, she comes across someone called Orlando. Now we talk about Beatrice and Benedict. There's a bit of that going on, but she is essentially the more compelling partner of the two. Now, he writes loads of silly love notes, simplistic love poems that he sticks on the trees to try and woo her. And, she does love him, and he does have his merits, but she is the one who needs to take the relationship in hand. And she sticks fast to her principles. She's very resourceful, very witty, and thanks to her, everything does work out well in the end. And that's why it's seen as a lightweight piece. But, yeah, like I said, there's a bit more to it than that. So when she first arrives with Celia, her cousin, she talks about how, I suppose I have to disguise myself a man. We're not better because that's a more common tool that I did sit in all points like a man, which basically because it means I can do more, things that I wouldn't be able to do in my normal guise. So she does sort of like have to play by the rules, if you like, but she also, using her own wits and resourcefulness, she does also make things happen. And that's all down to her own strength of character. And also, at the end of the play, she also gets the epilogue as well, because, traditionally, it's going to be a male character. This is the only play where it's a woman who sort of bids the audience farewell. So it's all very, very notable for that reason. So, yeah, she's definitely an often overlooked and very important female character in the Shakespeare canon. And that's my very brief introduction as to why. As You Like It. Okay, Miss Huntley.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to talk about two. One that you won't be familiar with and one that you will, because I'm going to have my cake and eat it, as Shakespeare might say. First person I'm going to speak about is in a play called Cymbeline. Now, Cymbeline is very, very rarely played. It was played at the Globe in 2012 as part of the Globe to Globe season. I cannot remember which country brought it. You're all too young to remember the Olympic year, aren't you? Yes. Some of you weren't even born. Yes. Anyway, 2012, the Globe hosted all about 35 different companies coming from across the world to play in the Globe itself, and they quite often played in their original language. And Cymbeline was certainly one of them. I can't, unfortunately, remember who played them. But and it's quite interesting because, obviously, a lot of Shakespeare's plays are set in different countries. Obviously, we've got Verona, Italy. We've got France, Denmark, okay? But you didn't necessarily link the play with the country. And also then after 2012 they did it again, I would say maybe about 4 or 5 years later, and that's where I saw it for the first time ever. It's mad. It's totally mad. It's in a time before time, even probably before King Lear in terms of eras. And this is the plot. The King of Britain, enraged by his daughter's disobedience in marrying against his wishes, banishes his new son-in-law. Having fled to Rome, the exiled husband makes a foolish wager with a villain he encounters there. Obviously, he doesn't know he's a villain.
Gambling on the fidelity of his abandoned wife. Combining courtly menace and horror, comedy and melodrama, Cymbeline is a moving depiction of two young lovers driven apart by deceit and self-doubt. Now, this is a motif, isn't it, about lovers being driven apart by villainy. Okay? Now, so the heroine in this play is called Imogen. Imogen. Right? She's very strong. And one of the things that she has to do is flee her father's court because her stepmother, needless to say, a villainess, and her stepbrother are determined to, in classic Snow White mode, get rid of her. So she has to dress up as a boy because it's safer, like a lot of Shakespeare's heroines, because, of course, they're all being played by boys anyway, boys whose voices haven't necessarily broken yet, right? And she says, we're about halfway through the play. She's had to run away because Posthumus, her husband, who she shouldn't have married, is in Rome, as I just said. And poor thing, I see a man's life as a tedious one. I have tired myself, and for 2 nights together have made the ground my bed. I should be sick, but that my resolution helps me. Milford, when from the mountain top Pisanio showed thee, thou wast within a ken. O Jove, I think foundations fly the wretched. Such, I mean, where they should be relieved. 2 beggars, she told me, I could not miss my way. Where will poor folks like that have inflictions on them, knowing 'tis a punishment or trial? Now, she's fled westward, and she basically ends up in Wales. And she's looked after by 2 very kind people. And again, this is another motif that happens in Shakespeare. Winter's Tale, for example, the poor baby is picked up by a poor shepherd and looked after. And Imogen, eventually she wins through, but she has to show strength of mind. And because Posthumus is being told, not only that, and she's also told that Posthumus is dead. So there's a lot of villainy going on. So again, we've got this motif of women being traduced, in other words, told lies about, haven't we? Okay? Because women are vulnerable in the sense that they should be one thing, and men want to believe that they're all sorts of things, certainly in Shakespeare's day, and a bit later as well. They should be loving, virginal, attractive mothers, and not have real personalities at all, really. And of course, but the other thing you have to remember in Shakespeare is that more often than not, the women do have personalities, and big personalities. So what was the reality is probably very different from the expectations. The other woman I'm going to talk about is in Midsummer Night's Dream, and it's Hippolyta. Now, Hippolyta is a very, very minor role, really, but when I've been teaching it in recent years, I've had to think about Hippolyta because she has, I'm sure you all know, been defeated in war. She is alien to Athens. She's a prisoner. She's been deprived of her tribe, the Amazons. She's alone. She's no longer the warrior she once was. So her weapon belt has been taken. Theseus has conquered her. He's intending to marry her in a different frame. That's what he says, a different key. But she holds on to herself, and she takes the heroine's part. Can you remember the heroines, girls? Hermia. Helena, yeah. She takes Hermia's part against her father and Theseus. Not necessarily by saying anything, but certainly she's not keen on this happening. So when Theseus eventually rides to hounds the day of their wedding day, Hippolyta is with him. She's a very good horsewoman. That's what her tribe in the northwest of Greece were known for. She takes the part of the lovers, and says, no, they should be together. Because Aegeus is very shocked. Theseus is quite shocked as well. So they come together and they watch the play together and they're married. So it does end happily because obviously it's a comedy. But she is a very strong lady. She doesn't want to just give in. So she doesn't necessarily say to Theseus, oh yeah, everything's fine, it'll be all right. And like a lot of women in classical myth, she's been essentially enslaved, like the Trojan women. Circumstances change, and we've got the same sort of thing still happening today, women being trafficked, refugees. So when I'm teaching her about her now, that's who I think about. And she has some of the loveliest lines as well. And of course, her the other parallel to her in the play is who? Who's the other strong woman in the play?
Titania?
Titania, yeah, Queen of the Fairies, who defies her lord and master until he cheats and puts a spell on her. So again, we've got this motif running through Shakespeare's plays, whether the real characters or not are strong women having to come up against nefarious and controlling men, and not all the time, obviously, but a lot of the time. So, okay. So, there's our Shakespeare for this year.
Yes, happy Shakespeare Day.
Happy Shakespeare Day. Happy birthday, Shakespeare. 400 and odd years young.
Thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Let's come and say goodbye, shall we?
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.